Well, it's an honor to be with you this afternoon. And if I didn't say another word after Mr. Scherer's advice to you, I think we would have accomplished all the training objectives of the day. And I am conscious of, having been a midshipman, an inmate here for 4 years, that I and my fellow distinguished graduates may be one of the only things between you and liberty. So I'm very, very conscious of that. It would be difficult to overstate how honored I am to be part of this evening's events. Admirals and generals, distinguished civilians, family members, and of course the brigade. It is simply humbling to be part of this, and to be in the presence of such distinguished American leadership in our modern era. It's such an honor to be with the brigade again, and the leadership of this great institution. And I said it earlier today, many people and many organizations made this moment happen. But I think without the leadership of this superintendent, this couldn't have occurred tonight. This institution is a magnificent institution, and it's a national treasure. And to be on the stage with the 4 fellow distinguished graduates, one of whom is my classmate and dear friend Durwood Curtis, who has had a career that we should all emulate, is truly an honor of my life. And to that end, it's such a pleasure to have the opportunity to recognize my classmates from the great bicentennial class of 1976 who are with us here tonight. Let's not talk about who had the last plebe year, please. Class of 76 stood the watch during the Cold War and beyond. And I would say that that term, distinguished, could be applied to them as well. And it's such an honor to be with my classmates here this evening. I'm also joined tonight by dear friends who occupy a very special place in my heart and in my life, and I'm very grateful for their presence. And I'm honored that they could join my family for this evening. And my family, Kathy, my wife, my daughters, Betty and Bobby, as well as my brother and sister-in-law and nephew, Joe, Janice, and Trey Allen. Your presence completes the evening for me. Kathy is a 3rd-generation Marine junior, so she had some idea what she was getting into in all of this. Betty and Bobby grew up in the Marine Corps, in a family where I was gone for long periods of time, including years of service in conflict. My family's been an inspiration to me, and you've been my strength over the years, and I love you very much. And now to the brigade. 20 years ago tonight, I was the commandant of midshipmen, and we were a nation that had been plunged into war. I was here on the day when we were attacked on 9/11. And as the commandant, I would be here on the day we invaded Iraq. Gates 1 and 8 were sandbagged and guarded by Marines, and armed patrol boats prowled the Severn River in the Chesapeake Bay. It was a time in our country of great uncertainty, and it was clear that we had entered the struggle of our generation and into the crucible of 2 major theater wars. The Brigade of Midshipmen would soon find themselves leading Marines and sailors. And for me, this moment for the Academy was a moment to turn its every energy towards preparing you, the brigade, for war and for the kind of combat leadership demanded of our most junior officers, whose perspective of war is the most vivid, the most demanding, the most violent, and the most deadly. As commandant, I believed it was our duty to prepare for the inevitable reality of battle, to the points made by the previous graduate. That instant in which your life and the lives of all that you lead hang in the balance of the state of your character, your moment of truth. Now, at tomorrow's leadership panel, I'm going to have the opportunity to be more expansive about what I consider are qualities inherent in combat leadership. But tonight, as I was asked, I want to address this notion for you of the moment of truth. We use this term all the time, and we don't really appreciate the enormity of its meaning, for its origins are from war and is meant to reflect the truest measure of your character in the instant of crisis and at the truly clarifying point and impact of battle. Joshua Chamberlain, the commander of the 20th Maine, on the second day of the Battle of Gettysburg, on the left flank of the Union line, saved the Army and saved the nation that day at the Battle of Little Round Top. Many years later, he would gather his veterans around him for the dedication of the memorial, now gray from the passage of years. And he would say to them, quote, "It was the force of your characters you had formed in the silent, peaceful years by your mother's knee and by your father's side, which stood you in such stead in that day of trial." Charles Wilson, also known as Lord Moran, writing in his time of his own experiences on the Western Front in World War I in the classic book, Anatomy of Courage, assessed, quote, "A man of character in peace becomes a man of courage in war. He cannot be selfish in peace and yet unselfish in war. Character, as Aristotle taught, is a habit, the daily choice of right instead of wrong. It is a moral quality which grows to maturity in peace and is not suddenly developed on the outbreak of war." 20 years ago, as the commandant, led by Superintendent John Ryan, I knew you were to be thrust into the unending crises that would require much, perhaps demand everything from you. We talked then about the nature of war, and we talked then about human factors in combat. We talked about the silent messages all around you in the yard from American heroes, exemplars of leadership, who'd confronted their own character trials and whose words and deeds provided those vital moral compass headings for us all as America confronted such an uncertain era. Here in these messages, we found profound examples of courage and character and sacrifice. Here along the Severn, you are blessed each day to be immersed in this environment. And let me tell you, when your time comes, and it's going to come, mark my words, I offer you 4 points. Be courageous. Display your courage to inspire those around you. In the darkness of combat, your bravery will be a shining light. Be decisive. Make the decision and carry on with its execution. In crisis, many are immobilized by the moment. Be kind. What separates us as a great nation and as a great people from our enemies and our opponents around the world is our humanity and our compassion. Your instinct should be to protect and to preserve life, not to take it, though we may have to. And be selfless. Be prepared to sacrifice. Be prepared to give up everything if you're called to. So, while here tonight in Alumni Hall, your naval engagement or your battlefield seems far off both in time and in distance, it is waiting for you, I promise. We had never heard of Fallujah. We had never heard of Ramadi. We had never heard of Kandahar. But I promise you it's coming. And your preparation for that moment occurs here every single day in immeasurable, sometimes undetectable increments. Annapolis is the engine for your preparation. as it has been for great leaders across our history, as it was for the leaders on this stage and in our audience tonight. For the classroom, from the classroom to the playing field, from midshipman regulations to the honor concept, you're doing the small, seemingly inconsequential, sometimes maddeningly routine actions every day, and doing them right, doing the right over wrong, gearing you, preparing you for that supreme test. Again from Lord Moran, and I'll finish. Writing in his time, he would say, quote, "For war, despite that which we have heard to the contrary, has no power to transform. It merely exaggerates the good and the evil that are in us, till it is plain for all to read. It cannot change. It exposes. Man's fate in battle is worked out before war begins, for his acts in war are dictated not by courage, nor by fear, but by conscience, character, of which war is the final test." So, ladies and gentlemen of the brigade, the test of your character is coming, as it has for Naval Academy graduates who've gone before you and in whose paths you follow. And as we face this moment of grave uncertainty in the crisis of Ukraine, which is truly a global crisis, a source of great strength for America and the American people, and indeed for the world, must be the certainty of the strength of the character of its Annapolis graduates and of this brigade at this moment of truth. I know this brigade is up to the challenge. I know you will not let us down. Thank you.